One final testimony here. This is from Nathaniel. I just found this, and it speaks to me on a lot of levels. Too many forget that the continuance of a people should come from the love of one's own people, and not a hate for the other. I hate the mistakes I made. I wear them every day, and some I even wish I could take back. But time is merciless and flows only forward. I'm trying to rectify them, but some I may just have to live with. It's an uphill battle. Listen to this guy, No White Guilt.
Listen to this guy, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, Listen to this guy, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, No White Guilt,
Everything from being a man to encouraging your kin to face tattoos, to how you identify yourself and your beliefs, to discerning your motivations for why you want to see the children of the West survive. Don't make my mistakes. You'll feel like a fool otherwise. Don't make my mistakes. That's from Nathaniel Nelson. A warning to him about the warnings that he wished he had somebody share with him.
Listen to this guy, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, Listen to this guy, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, Listen to this guy, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, No White Guilt, Listen to this guy, No White Guilt, No White Guilt.
And it's a roll and go free. It's wonderful to see you all. Don't know how long we're going to be here tonight, but it was an opportunity to chat. I hope everybody can hear me okay. I see Donning Armour is with us, Yender and Kat, Mr. Fookers, and Victorian Time Traveler, Apollo, Streaky Bacon. A lot of wonderful folks are here. Austin is here, Hexagram, Brad C., Master Fountain. Let folks know that we are rolling in with a go free. We're going to be here for just a little while talking about this very, very interesting case about this most popular YouTube personality. And I guess her popularity stretches beyond YouTube. But we're going to be talking about that specifically because there is a place where her world and what's happening there intersects with what we talk about and what we do. And her name, we're going to be talking about her today, is Chantal. And I just have a little bio here from online. It says that she's a YouTube vlogger and social media star who made a name for herself as the founder of the Chantal Marie channel. She specializes in, now at this point, mukbangs, which I had no idea what that was, and had it explained to me. It is when an, at least ostensibly I understand, I could be wrong, but it is when an overweight person eats all they can eat for the enjoyment of those viewing. But she also posts beauty and fashion content for her 80,000 subscriber base, but I believe it's higher than that now, maybe nearly 100,000 on YouTube. Before her fame, and it says in December 2016, she made her YouTube debut with Ipsy December Glam Bag. And a piece of trivia that was included was her first recording to surpass 600,000 views was 2017's large, super cheesy pizza mukbang eating show. And so we're going to bring on Kate. How are you, Kate?
I am good. How are you?
I am good. Let me turn you up on my end. Folks, let me know if you can hear her okay, and then we will adjust accordingly. But I appreciate that input. And so you have watched this woman and also the response channels, because not only does she have, so folks, I just want to start off and let folks know exactly a little bit about her so they know who we're talking about. This woman started a YouTube career quite a few years back, and it was based in was it eating? She was cooking and losing weight. Was that right?
Yes, sir. I think she started it out as like a weight loss journey kind of thing,
Okay.
but I think that somewhere along the way she probably discovered that she was actually making, I think, quite a bit of money as well as attracting a lot of viewers by not necessarily losing weight, but by doing like the mukbangs that you were talking about, which I think is disgusting. But I guess it's something that the YouTube community pays some of the people, the content producers that are overweight. I guess it pays well for them to do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly, I think everybody in this community is going to find that revolting. She does have the option, and she makes use of it for channel memberships, and she actually makes a ton of money through YouTube by way of that means, but also I guess commercials and the like that since she's monetized, are allowed to play on her channel. And just see here, ultimately she probably fancies herself as some sort of um, gastronome, or maybe gastronomist, or gourmand. Probably, though, she calls herself a foodie, because that's like the idiot's version of those words. But it's not really about, or an enophile. It's not really about identifying foods that are sumptuous, but it's really just about her life going down the toilet, and she eats. The food is ultimately a slow suicide tool. But before we really get to that, uh, how many people, how many response channels do you think she's able to support, or how many out there that she is supporting, these people
I
who are watching and responding?
I saw somebody estimate that there were like 40 channels on YouTube devoted to her. And then there's another larger content producer, like larger as in physical size, that they also tend to talk about as well, but mainly her. And that's a lot of people. 40 channels is quite a bit. I know that there are a like a tighter handful of that are making quite a living off of talking about her, and she's aware of that too, and I think that feeds into some of her um like her ego, because she does have it's fascinating because for someone who has so much self-hatred, she also has like a bit of a narcissistic side as well. When you watch her, she's just like a fascinating example of human psychology, because to watch her talk to her viewers and talk about herself, and she will say, well, if I quit doing content or whatever, all these response channels would have nothing to talk about. So she really fancies herself quite important in that way. But then there are times when she has just these painful moments of self realization where you can see that she is just so hateful of herself, which you would have to do this to yourself.
Well,
You would
right,
have to
right.
feel that way.
Well, before we get to, though, I mean, how early did you, in viewing her? Well, and let me also, I want to make clear from the very beginning the position of this channel when it comes to Chantal, and that is that we believe at this channel that there is beauty in all sizes, and that the most important beauty is on the inside of a person rather than on the outside. Unlike the response channels, reaction channels is the proper name for them, who mock her, who maybe some of them pretend to care in the process of getting a laugh out of making fun of her. We're not going to be doing that. We're going to be, I mean, if there are any jokes, they would tell themselves. We are actually concerned because this woman at some point was a little girl. She was a little white girl in Canada, and she was somebody's daughter, maybe somebody's sister, somebody's brother, and somebody's cousin. And she was poisoned with antiwhitism. And we're going to work up to exactly what happened just days ago in a drunken, in vino veritas, a drunken filled rant, and a video that she ended up deleting, but the video was saved by a lot of these reaction channels, and I think we have some clips maybe we could show later on as well, where she confesses quite a lot about her genuine inner demons. And so while we can look at somebody who has gotten to this state and think whatever we want to think, at the same time, this is somebody that could be your neighbor's little white girl today. And so we need to keep that in mind, because here we see the consequences and of being poisoned with the belief that your people are evil, and that therefore the seed, the inescapable seed of what and who you are within you is evil. And then the only moral action in that scenario is to inflict injury. If it's immoral to preserve white well-being in this anti-white world, the only moral action then is to victimize, is white ill-being. And so this woman has been in the process of victimizing herself and victimizing Western kind with these antics and more. We can go into that, normalizing things that shouldn't be normalized. And of course, anti-whites along the way, including anti-whites at YouTube today, are creating an environment where she can continue to normalize and celebrate and reward and thereby incentivize self-harm for white people. So let's go back, if we could, to when you started, I guess as far back as because I'm sure some of these reaction videos have reflected on earlier times. When did was there ever a point where she seemed just like happy she was on YouTube, and it was not I guess visibly quite yet a train wreck in motion? She was maybe overweight, and she maybe wanted to reduce her weight, but again, we see beauty in every size. So, but was there a point like that at least that you were aware of?
Well, I actually started to kind of casually watch her as like a guilty pleasure, like junk food for your head kind of thing, last December. And so, and I would just watch occasionally, and just, I would, when like the reaction channels were on or what have you. And it was, she was much more, like, I mean, she didn't have her life together, obviously, because, someone who is struggling with that much of a battle with food and other things. I mean, clearly she didn't have her life together, but she was definitely much less self-destructive, even just last December. It over the year, this past year, it has really just evolved into this crazy story arc of just a lot of self-destructive behaviors, a lot of just really awful life choices. It just like one after the other has just kind of snowballed on her, and it has really brought out a different side of her than what I saw when I first started watching. What I first saw was a girl who was really, struggling with weight, and she had health concerns and so forth. But for the most part, she was a lot like on the surface happier. I didn't see a lot of like rages and different things like that. there wasn't a lot of accusations from her chat and the people watching and the reaction channels of just like blatant dishonesty about things. I think the biggest thing that she was dishonest about at first, when I first started watching, was her weight. She would say that, she had lost X number of pounds or what have you. And people online would call her out about that. And, people would produce pictures and so forth. And you're right. It is important to note that this isn't about criticizing her weight, because that is really that's the result of the problem. The weight isn't the problem as much as what got her to the point, what put her in the headspace to get to the point where physically, she struggles to walk a small ways. That's what the real issue is. But when I first started watching her, she would do things like take her chat for a walk up a hill. She was much more like actually trying to make healthier changes, it seemed. And then things just really went downhill after she started. I guess what happened was she really started expressing an interest in finding someone to date. And that led her to trying different, I guess, online sources and so forth. And then she met the individual that she's currently in this back and forth, very self destructive relationship with on Tinder, I believe it was. And after meeting that individual, then her life just really has just evolved into this horrible snowball of self destruction. He introduced her to drugs, and there's been lots of police called to the residences where they've been, and just a lot of back and forth and a lot of drama on YouTube, and accusations and just all kinds of awful things. But what it really boils down to is how she feels about herself, because you don't enter into destructive and dysfunctional relationships like that, and you certainly don't stay in them if you feel confident in who you are and your value and your worth. And it's quite sad because she really doesn't see that in herself.
Right. Yeah, that's a really, really important point. And I mean, there could be obviously any number of things that she struggles with. But without question, you cannot be reared in Western civilization, and maybe even reared on planet Earth, without coming into full contact with anti-whitism and coming to the conclusions, the predetermined conclusions that anti-whites want you to come to. And so we can see that maybe her obesity, however many pounds she is overweight or in the perfect zone, whatever they would call it, wherever she wants to be, that indeed, if she's unhappy with that could have been fed. It could be an example of hating herself, hating the fact that she's white, unable to escape that body and that history that she's been laden with, that burden that she's been laden with. And so this consumption, this endless consumption to try to eat away the emotional pain, to try to eat away the tears, to try to eat away the self-hate. This is the horrible child abuse that white children are exposed to. And then we see the manifestation of these things. We see people doing what they can, white people, to cope with the infection, the anti-white infection. And the coping methods can in and of themselves, they can mask the infection. They can mask what we refer to as the white noir. They can mask the self-abuse to certain degrees, or it can just be the self-abuse. But ultimately, even the coping mechanism is harmful because in and of itself, if it's something like drugs to keep you happy, that destroys your system over time, or at least some would argue that that's the case. But even if you found something that could enable you to cope, and people will complain about these anti-white boomers who have found a way to cope with their money, with their luxury, with their boats. Even if they find a way to cope for almost the totality of their lives with their self-hate, with white erasure, with anti-whitism all around them, ultimately there's no escaping it. And it's their children and their grandchildren that they claim to love, that they are leaving to a world that is far worse. So the first time in the U.S.'s history, far worse than what the parents had given them. So their parents had given them. So that's what we see even up to that point. And so at some point, you say she's now she wanted to get a man to date, and she goes out to find a man. And what do you think? Now we say this, folks, all the time. People of different races can fall in love. That's true. We acknowledge that. But we also believe that the vast majority of white people who find themselves a non-white mate do so because that is a way to white flight. That is a way to try to escape that evil reputation, that burden of being white. To say that I'm so much like this other group. I've married this other group. I've produced children with this other group. And you very often will see anti-whites, white people who are, that's one of the things they'll shove in your face. And that is an admission that act, or those acts, if it's finding non-white people out there to have sex with, just for dating and having sex, they will shove that in your face. And that is an admission that the reason for doing it is their hatred of the white race and their desire to victimize Western kind. This Chantal went out and got herself a very disreputable, non-white drug, it's ostensibly, we don't know drug using, drug abusing, drug dealing, whatever it might be, supposedly a convict or whatever. But Kate, tell us about this guy and how he entered the scene.
So I guess through Tinder, she found this individual. And it was interesting too, because when she first started to look for somebody, I noticed that when she would talk about the guys that she was attracted to, she would say things like, I prefer exotic men, or I prefer, like men of different, like cultures or what. Like she was really, she kept using those kinds of words, and you're right, those are code words, obviously, for saying, I prefer to date somebody who's, non-white. She was definitely not interested in.
And this, let me just pause you real quick, because it's an important thing for folks to understand. When you hear a white person, male or female, who is talking about these things, and they want to give you all of these other excuses, you can, if you were so inclined, I have done this in the past, sort of explore exactly, well, what is it about exotic? What is it about, and these excuses they give, and then you ultimately find out in the conversation, well, it just means that they're not white. Okay, well, so the purpose of this mate is not white. You just want to make sure you find somebody who is not white. So that's ultimately what she's revealing with these pretexts. She is searching for someone who is not white. And why not white? Because she hates the white race. She hates herself for being white. She hates the white race. And so go ahead, Kate, take it away.
So then she ended up, I guess, meeting this person. And I believe, according to her, and, of course, this is just everything that I'm saying is just alleged. It's things that have come from her streams, which people have proven online with, what the reaction channels refer to as quote unquote receipts, meaning that, you can prove one way or another that somebody might not be telling the truth in a stream or what have you. So she has been proven in many different scenarios to not be entirely truthful. So what I'm telling is what I have, seen and heard on her own streams, and then some of it from reaction channels, but mainly what I'm just basing my opinions on is what I have watched come out of her mouth. So she met this individual the very first night that she was with him. She came back on her own channel, her own live stream, and then admitted to her audience that she had sexual relations with him, and that she had also engaged in drug use. That she had, I believe she hinted at it. I don't think she actually said it was cocaine, but she kind of hinted that that's what it was. Um, so then after that, she also admitted that first day that she had bruises on her where she said he had been physically rough with her in ways that she indicated that she was not comfortable with. So right away, she was kind of saying, that this person was maybe not as maybe not interacting with her in a way that she was looking for. She said, she said she had never been around somebody who was doing these kinds of drugs and so forth. And she made this stream, and then she kind of came back and said, I shouldn't have done all these things. And then I think she even at one point said that she would not see this person again, and that she would not, do these things again, and so forth. But apparently she had become so attracted to this individual. And and I'm not necessarily talking physical attraction. I'm just
And
saying that, like,
let me just jump in, because you're right there. You're making another great revelation, I guess, by sharing her story as you've observed it through her and some of these reaction channels who watch very closely. But she went to this guy's place for a date. She immediately threw herself on her back for him so that he could take whatever he wanted. She had bruises, and she was not comfortable with that. He introduced her to drugs, perhaps, and then she used the drugs. This is all self-inflicted self-abuse because she's white. she was servicing a non-white man and allowing him to abuse her any way he wanted as a form of penance for being white. So keep that in mind, folks. Every act of this. So when she's talking about how much Chantel's talking about how much she likes this guy, how much she's attracted to him, or whatever it might be, those are pretexts to cover up the fact that she is serving some sort of penance in her mind. She ultimately, though, as an anti-white person, she's merely palliating the white guilt. Palliate is to treat without cure. And so it's something that they have to do for their whole lives, inescapable. But please continue, Kate.
So then, and you're right about that. Like, she really was allowing him to just basically treat her very, very poorly. And it really has not stopped. It's gotten like further and further out of proportion and just ridiculous at times. But she has never put like boundaries, limits. This is this is the confines of where I'm comfortable, and like nothing like that. She's so desperate to be loved by this guy. At one time, she actually told him, and this is really quite tragic. She said, even if you don't love me, if you would just pretend, I would be happy. So she is basically just begging this individual to pretend to love her, because she doesn't feel, I suppose, that she is worth somebody actually loving. And that is very tragic.
Yeah. Because she's white. But also, it's this please accept me, even though I'm white, non-white man. Please say that I'm okay, because I can't find value in myself, since I've been taught for the totality of my life that I and my people are garbage. Please tell me that I have value. Please abuse me more for the evil of my people and the evil seed that's inside of me. Please then tell me that I'm vindicated. Please then tell me that I have a personal value. So please continue.
And I'd like to say too that, some people, some of the reaction channels or what have you, will say, well, she doesn't think that she could do better because she's so overweight or what have you, or because of the way she looks. But I disagree, because I have known people who are, of different sizes and so forth, and they have been able to attract and have, healthy relationships. Like, they're able to attract people of worth and value, and people that value them, just because somebody might be heavier or what have you, doesn't mean that they have to just settle for whoever will pretend to care about them. That is not a requirement for finding a relationship, if you're heavy. So I think that that's important, because she really has, I mean, put up with just intolerable circumstances in the relationship. And getting to know this person shortly after she um, revealed who he was. And now, and that's of course questionable. I mean, when you have somebody maybe in your life and you are on YouTube, and then she said it was like accidental that she revealed his name, but a lot of people think that she kind of wanted to reveal to people, because what happened was is the reaction channels started to accuse her of making him up, because she had not had anything exciting happening, I guess, in her life for years, because she's been on YouTube for many years before I found her. I think she started in like 2016 or something. Mm-hmm. So the reaction channels were like, oh, he's not real. And so she felt like she needed to prove, that he was real. So then I think she purposely, accidentally, what have you, dropped his name. I think it was his last name or something. And then people on the different chat boards, like the Kiwi Farms and all that, put together who he might be. And then they were able to kind of track him from that. And then they were actually able to uncover his identity. Well, then allegedly, some of the reaction channels started saying that he had served just 1 day shy of 2 years for stabbing his previous girlfriend. And he had been involved in a lot of drug use and drug dealing, and he didn't have like an actual job. He was like a street performer there in, I believe it might be Montreal, or I forget which large city in Canada he lives in. But they were saying, that he really was a person with just, questionable morals and a very sketchy background. And so, to embark on a relationship with somebody who you're presented with all this evidence of, hey, this is who this person is. And in her mind, she was still like, I have to beg him to please pretend to love me. And again, I mean, look at the metrics of this individual. He's an ex-con allegedly, a drug user allegedly, and still she felt like she was the one who needed to beg him to want to be with her. It's very sad.
It's very sad. And this is happening by the millions. This is not some one-off case, folks. You are also, folks, you're welcome to chime in, tag me as No White Guilt on the different platforms with questions or comments or statements. And you can also financially gift. Entropy is open. Odyssey is working. Cash App is up. Those questions, comments, statements will absolutely be read and answered. But this is going on by the millions across Western civilization. There are white men and women, white young men and women who are giving themselves over to anti-white, in most cases will be non-white partners, who are not good people, for the purpose of abusing themselves, for the purpose of getting abused, for the purpose of hoping and thereby feeling like it's some sort of penance, and hoping to get some sort of acceptance and pat on the head from these folks. And they are abusing them everywhere. You wonder, folks ask all the time. You have these very folks in the white sympathetic sphere. It just recurs. It's recurring right now. It's such nonsense. The same sort of wasteful conversations about forms of government and forms of economy and all of this sort of thing. Meanwhile, these same folks ask, well, what happened to this once proud white race, this Western kind? You are looking at the white race. This is the white race today. And the reason we are here, the reason we are self-abusing, the reason why we are turning over all of our belongings, all of our history, is because we are taught to hate our people, to believe that everything we have done is evil, to believe that we come from a demonic line. And ultimately, these folks also, as a consequence, believe that non-white peoples are somehow angelic, that they've never done anything wrong. You'll very often hear in every Western country, well, the non-white people they were just a friendly bunch, and all they did was sit around and smoke peace pipes together. Of course, the reality is nowhere close to that. Every race of man has behaved brutally to members of their own kind. So internecine conflict, tribes among different races. And you also have them committing atrocities outward on other races. That's the way that the human animal has behaved, all of the human animal. And we can lament that, but it is the case. You need a different species if you want different behavior. And we, as a consequence, over time, finding that our virtues were our objective virtues, we found them to be more important and something to aspire to far more than the common, the low, the bestial. We raised ourselves and we set new standards. Western kind did, for ourselves. And we did such a good job that many people from around the world point their feet in the direction of Western civilization because of it. But you're looking at the white race today. So do you want to talk about, look at this woman. Ultimately, she's victimizing herself. She has agency. She's an adult. She's victimizing Western kind. And I can outline more of that as the discussion continues. But she's also a victim of anti-whitism from her earliest days, and continues to be a victim of anti-whitism. Anti-whitism, of course, in that non-white, anti-white boyfriend or former boyfriend, and we'll talk more about that. Former and then current boyfriend, we'll talk more about that. But do you really think that you are going to be able to go to the white world? You're looking at the white world encapsulated in the self-abuse and hatred of our kind in this woman right here. And this is an older image. Do you really think that you're going to go to her and share a new flag, a new party program, a new economic argument, a new political argument, and accomplish anything? You have to move these people to a better and more wholesome outlook, or you have no hope. So let's continue.
I agree completely, because that is the bottom line, is she sees no value in not just herself, but in her people. She has no value as far as in-group preference. She has no value as far as she did not take care of herself in a way that allowed her to have children. And I don't mean because she couldn't attract a mate. I'm not saying that at all. Again, I think size, beauty comes in lots of different sizes and so forth, so I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that she allowed her body to get so physically unhealthy that she had a couple of years ago, I believe, and again, this is just from her own words, she had a hysterectomy, and so therefore that left her obviously infertile, and she cannot have children. So she didn't value her body and her people and herself enough to want to perpetuate the survival of her own people. I mean, that's the ultimate self-hatred, when you don't even want to see people of your people. You don't want to see them continue. You don't care if it if they continue or not. You care so little about that you will just poison your body to the point where you cannot even contribute to that perpetuating that reproduction, the natural cycle that every group does for themselves. She just didn't even care enough to physically take care of herself, to be able to put herself in a situation where if she so desired to have children, that she could have them. So it's, again, and that's just one of the many choices that she's made in her life that has led her to a situation where she now feels that her option and her worth are based on, I guess, what she can do and give, and allow others who are not of her people to take from her and to do with her, and to manipulate her. I mean, the individual that she is with and not with, and so forth, he takes lots of money from her. She gives it to him, but he takes it. He would up until recently, he would wait until like the day before her YouTube payout, and then he would reach out and want to make connection with her again, and so forth. So like he would be kind of icy and distant throughout like the rest of the weeks, and then that week right before, then he would want to be friendly again, and because she would pay for his rent, she would pay for living expenses, give him really expensive gifts, bought him some kind of iPad Pro or what have you, and paid for the subscription plan for that, so that he could stream, because he decided, after seeing the money that she's bringing in from YouTube, he decided he wanted a channel. So then he started making some kind of cooking channel, or what have you, and so she bought him all these expensive things to do his cooking channel with, would go out and buy really expensive groceries so that he could have the best ingredients to do the cooking channel with. And then he would actually force her, according to her, to sleep on a mattress at his house when she was allowed to be there. um, he would force her to sleep on a mattress on the floor. So like that's how much contempt he had for her, as she is providing him with all these things, all this financial stability, all this these really expensive items and technology and just different things like that he could not or would not provide for himself. She's giving him all this. She's also giving him, according to her, lots of sexual favors that she described in detail on her channel. And then he's forcing her to sleep on a mattress at his house on the floor. And to her, that's what she deserved.
Wow. Yeah, precisely. They are anti-whites of all races are extorting white people everywhere you turn. And it is the easiest. This is what we talk about all the time. The whole purpose of these pretexts that we call meme pathogens is to get white people to lower their defenses because they're white guilted and they want the punishment. They want to be abused. This woman wants to be abused because she's white. That is the basis for this. How many of the illnesses, psychological illnesses, physical illnesses that we see manifest, and there is a proliferation of them. Not only people like to talk about the food all the time and medicine, and of course these play a role, but how many of these things are caused by this self-hatred, this deep-seated, inescapable? Remember, the things you learn at your earliest years are part of who you are. You're not getting rid of them. The things you learn when over the course of your childhood, there's no getting rid of that. That's who you are. That's why we set up the method, the practice that we have of going free, because there is no eradicating these ideas, just like you can't eradicate how to drive or ride a bicycle. You have to deal with them a different way, and we teach you how to do that with the method of going free, a practice that you have to stick with for the totality of your life. But you can see with this behavior of this anti-white, non-white boyfriend, so-called, he's an abuser. You can't really call this a boyfriend. He decides that he takes money from her. She willingly gives it because she feels that she deserves to be robbed, to be fleeced, and not to white people, not to a white boyfriend, but to non-white, anti-white boyfriends, if you will, physical abusers and people who are, what do you call a monster? You call somebody who is getting you hooked on drugs and who's been in prison for stabbing or whatever else maybe the case is, and is then humiliates you, uses you sexually, humiliates you, won't let you get on the bed. You have to sleep on the floor like some sort of an animal. This is the white race. This is everywhere you turn. And some of the folks out there are going to be worse than Chantal. Some of them are going to be a little better. All of them infected. This is ultimately the white flighting that we're talking about. So she is at the point of the story. And how often, I do want to mention this as well. Oh, and then, yes, for him to then try to usurp her fame, usurp the work that she has done, whatever that might be, and then become a content creator himself. And then to do what? Of course, the point there would then, once I don't need the white dog anymore, which is how an anti-white would think of a white person. We don't think of anyone of any race that way. But an anti-white person, they would think, once I'm done with the white dog, I don't have to put it up with anymore. I've gotten everything I can get out of it. I've gotten the gratification. And by the way, what do you think an anti-white person of any race, but particularly of a non-white race, who has grown up believing and being taught that the white race is consummate evil, has done all evil to the world, do you think maybe that some of them would derive a great deal of sadistic pleasure, fleecing, raping, beating, harming, humiliating white people, particularly white women? Do you think that they might? Of course, if you were to switch races around and ask an anti-white person whether or not a white person would enjoy doing such a thing to non-white people, they would answer you before you were done with the sentence. And you know that's the case. So of course that's an outcome. These are destroyed lives. These are real people. Society is made. You have all of these people who supposedly, some of them are quite intelligent, and yet they continue to make the error. I guess they're not intelligent enough. They continue to make the error of anthropomorphizing every single thing around us. Society is composed of individuals. If you don't deal with the individual and their very selfish needs, which is totally understandable, then you are set to lose. And you can waft your ass right back to the graveyard with every other dead and defeated ideology, economic, political ideology, dead and defeated vehicle, political vehicle, social vehicle, whatever it might be, cultural vehicle, everyone that is there in the graveyard. You can go waft your ass right back there with the other ghosts because you are as feckless as a ghost. So he decides he's going to use and abuse, and this a metaphor for the larger picture, for the macro picture of what is happening to the white race in general across the West by white and non-white anti-whites. And make sure everybody understands, not all non-white people are anti-white. So anti-whites are people who decide of any race, any immutable characteristics, that they are going to hate the white race, and that they are going to victimize Western kind, and that they are going to use their hatred of the white race to pull down everything that the white race has built, to rename it, to replace it, to say that some other person created, built it, whatever it might be. They identify themselves as anti-white, and we acknowledge that they have identified themselves thus. There are also people of all immutable characteristics who support white well-being and who want to put an end to anti-whitism. That's where the world is. So this guy, this anti-white, non-white guy, use and abuse. And now he's also going to, in a way, steal her soul, because he wants to usurp her position as this celebrity on the internet, and he tries to start his own thing. But Kate will tell you, as he tries to start his own thing and he's dancing in the kitchen for a bunch of white women who are also self-hating because they're white, who also hate the white race. He's dancing and he's hideous. The guy is hideous, dancing in the kitchen. But what happens? It's not working out for him. He gets another girl, and we'll have Kate tell you about this, another white female to come in to replace Chantal. But it's not working out for him. And then he needs to go back to the well again, to go rob Chantal again. So his effort to steal her soul, falling on its face, but please pick it up. So he decides that he's going to get rid of Chantal and he's going to replace her with another white girl.
So he did. So what happened was, as he got a taste of like the internet celebrity status, because of her internet celebrity status, he did have instantly, as soon as he started his channel, he had lots of people go subscribe because he had reaction channels. He had a lot of her fans, people were interested in who he was. So he got a lot of subscribers, and he really obviously liked that kind of attention. And you're right, he did have a core group of women formed around him who became, obviously very obsessed with him, wanted to meet up with him. And he did meet up with several of these girls while he was still having Chantal over, still taking advantage of her, still probably telling her. I believe a lot of people say that he doesn't tell her the things that she says that he does, but I believe that he does say that to her, because why would she keep going back if he was saying, I would never be with you, I would never have anything to do with you. She says that when they are together, he does tell her that, eventually they could be together and talk about future and that kind of thing. And I think he does to keep kind of feeding her breadcrumbs, because she's got such little self-worth that she's just starving for any kind of attention. So I think he does give her little tiny bits of hope. And then that's what kind of keeps her coming back. So even though she knew that there were all these girls in his chats and so forth, hitting on him all the time and obsessed with him, she still continued to have this relationship, and her fans got really upset with her because she would lie to them and say, I'm not seeing him. And then they would find out that she was, or then she would confess that she was. And they would see like bruises on her, and they would confront her about it in her chats and so forth. And it just became a very volatile situation. And he did eventually meet another woman who also wanted to step in and take care of him, give him things and so forth. And he did then effectively leave Chantal for this other woman. And then Chantal really became angry and felt used, and she has been used. And she then decided to go to the police and make a police report about him, and accuse him of the things that she allegedly says, on her own words, that he did in various moments that they were together. And a lot of harm, a lot of abuse accusations. And so she made this police report, and she was granted a restraining order. And so then, he obviously retaliated. He made videos with her clothing that she had left at his house, making fun of how large she was, and just lots of different, very vindictive things on his part. And so then he moved in with this other girl, and Chantal was very depressed and upset. And there was a lot of back and forth on YouTube. He would make a video, she would make a video in response, and so forth. And then recently, then she went on a vacation to Cuba, to an island, and like a beach resort down there. And during this vacation, she had been self-medicating with crazy amounts of marijuana gummies, which are apparently legal in Canada. So she would get the cannabis in the gummy form, and then she would just take crazy amounts of it on the stream. And she would talk about taking it. So it's not an accusation or anything like that. It was from her own words. And she would become, much more mellow on the stream, and keep the streams basically very, not anything like what we saw when she was on this vacation. And then she got really intoxicated one night on this vacation, and she did a stream where she started ranting about her hatred of white people. And then
Now,
it
this
really,
quickly, just pause you right there. Keep the energy though, because we'll make it a bit of a cut and thrust here. This is one of those moments where someone, and we all have experienced it. Sometimes it's ourselves, sometimes over the course of our lives, sometimes it's from others. But people put up a wall, they build a wall in front of themselves, and who they really are. If you've ever been in sales, you'll know that the buyer will always build a wall around their real objections and their real thoughts. And it's your duty to try to figure out what those real objections and real thoughts are. Rarely do people break down and reveal their truest self. And the cause of that, or the reason for that, is we all know it instantly, that you know that others having knowledge of your truest self gives them power over us. And so occasionally, and the term in vino veritas, in wine truth, or in alcohol truth, and drugs truth, you'll see people's inhibitions are let down. And certainly for a woman like this, who is speaking regularly to her audience, she can start streaming at any part of the day, any hour of the day. She can start a live stream and have thousands immediately tuned in. And it's not just folks who want to, watch the train wreck. I mean, these are folks. She's friends with many other people, have channel memberships, talking with people regularly. It's kind of like she begins to have this sense of safety, like one will have or develop with a therapist, and then in those moments, lack of sleep, alcohol, maybe some marijuana, and speaking in a way maybe to what is perceived a very close friend. And remember, these folks also can't speak back except by what they type on the screen. So she can, it's not like they have a voice that she has to try to plug her ears and run away from. This is she can choose to read or not to read, accept or not to accept. Very easy to just ignore and ban the person, delete the person. So she had a moment of purest honesty where her guard wasn't up, and she didn't have the pretexts, all the soldier pretexts in line. Well, I like exotic men. Well, I like a guy with a permanent tan. Well, I like a guy with a different style of hair. Well, as long as he's not white, that's what I like. And we have done as a race this thing wrong, and I feel like we owe a little bit back. No, you find out the truth from these folks in those moments. And in this case, the truth is pure and unadulterated hatred for herself because she's white, and for our entire people. And as I said, the anti-whites at YouTube are complicit. There was indeed a channel, a television channel, that had reached out to her ostensibly and wanted to put her on television. Anti-whites there, complicit. Why do they want to do that? Because anti-whites love nothing more than white people getting victimizing themselves, and thereby normalizing and thereby incentivizing the victimization of Western kind. They love it. YouTube, the anti-whites at YouTube love it. This woman is on YouTube. Here I have to be as scrupulous as the good Lord himself. She, because she's victimized, because she hates white people, hates Western kind, hates Western civilization, and is destroying herself because she's white, she can get away with anything at YouTube. She can be on these streams talking about drug use. She can be on these streams on drugs. She can be on these streams exposing genitals. She can be on these streams talking about sex acts and having sex acts. She can be on streams and be talking about illegality. And that's wonderful for the anti-whites at YouTube. That's wonderful for the anti-whites at the network that reached out to her to have her on television to infect more white people, to make more white people feel guilty. And so before about being white, make more white people want to victimize Western kind, to say, this is normal. This is what you should do, white people. This is how you should behave. If it wasn't so late, I'd be yelling right now, because it just pisses me off to no end. But we're this close to telling you and sharing some of the clips, only a tiny portion of this woman going, just coming unglued over her hatred for herself for being white and for Western kind. I want to toss in something else so that you can get a fuller picture of how diseased our people are and how foolish it is to say, here's another flag. Let's talk about political policies. Let's talk about the next political vehicle or whatever it might be. Chantal used to date a white male. I believe that's right. And she stopped dating him, but he also is anti-white and so hates himself that he keeps her in his house while she has sex with anti-white, non-white men. And now I believe, and Kate can fill us in here, does he also now want to become a woman? Because being a white woman is a little less evil than being a white man.
So, yes, sir. So this is a fascinating dynamic of her life, is that she did used to date this white male, and he what happened was when she broke up with another gentleman that she had been dating, and I don't know anything about him, so I'm not going to talk about him at all, but she broke up with him and didn't have anyone at that point to, bless her heart. I mean, it is quite sad. She doesn't have any quote unquote friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, you never see her with friends on her streams or talking about friends or what have you. When she went on vacation recently, she went by herself. Like, that's very sad. So she didn't have anybody to room with, needed somebody apparently to room with, because she had been living with her boyfriend before this guy, and she had dated this guy a while ago, and they had remained in contact, and she wanted to room with him. So I guess the deal is what the reaction channels have said is that they used this guy's credit, I guess, or name or what have you, to get the apartment because she didn't have credit, and then she's paying the bills and so forth. So, but he lacks so much value in himself that he was willing to agree to move in with her while she's dating and what have you with all these other guys, or looking for other guys and that kind of thing. But also, as you just said, he has since decided to he announced on his own channel, I believe, according to the reaction channels, and also according to what Chantal has said on her own streams, he started dressing up as a female to do some of his streams, and then recently announced that he would like to live as a female. Now, on her streams, he can be heard in the background and communicating with her, saying things like, of course it's okay, and this is a direct quote, it's okay to hate white people. Look at all the evil stuff we do. So that was something that he recently said in a very recent stream, just maybe a week ago, after she got back from her vacation and was hit with some pushback in her chat over the things that she had said about white people. And he said, well, it's okay to be hateful to white people because look at all the evil things that we do. So he really struggles with a lot of self-hatred as well.
Yeah, this is the environment that we have to deal with. Now, obviously, every white person out there isn't just like this woman and this man, but they are much more like them than you would like to believe. They're much more like them than white people have been at much healthier times. And so this is something that you have to deal with. So right before not going to be here a lot longer. So if you have any comments or questions, statements, get them in, please. I really appreciate that. I want to take just a tiny detour to a website called Weight Matters. And here they share the psychological factors in obesity. And they have a couple here I'll just share with you. Avoidance of emotions. So is she denied the emotion of pride? Is she denied the emotion of love for herself? We don't have the time. We could go on for a long time about the emotions that she is denied as a white person for herself and her people. You cannot love yourself if you hate your people. Do you understand that? For sake, it is absolutely insane for folks out there to say, if you're white, you just gotta love yourself. You just have to. If you hate your people, you cannot love yourself. If you hate your people, you cannot do great things, because you are inseparable from them. It is your most essential being. There are other emotions that Chantal has been encouraged to engage in the place. Far more. Hatred of herself and people. Disgust with herself and people. Again, we could go on and on. Low self-worth. This is from the list on psychological factors in obesity from Weight Matters online. Low self-worth. How did she end up with low self-worth? Can you have high self-worth if you hate your people and you believe that you're from an evil race, that it runs in your veins? Poor body image. What do we see across Western civilization? For the totality of our lives, and these mean pathogens were in place for much of our parents' lives as well, and it's even worse for the generations now and to come, that white skin is pathetic. White skin is weak. The white ideal of beauty is ugly. It's got to be white erased. It's got to be erased from Western civilization. No, the ideal of beauty are all of these non-white people that they're putting forward now. Now, whether they're beautiful or not in your eye is immaterial. What matters here is that when white children, white young adults are taught endlessly that their skin, their phenotype, their hair, etc., that it's weak, that it's pathetic, that it's all of these things that you hear through in countless iterations in entertainment media, at university, etc., you're going to have a poor body image. Black is beautiful everywhere you look. Do white children get exposed to white is beautiful? Have you ever seen a giant advertisement that takes up the size of a side of a building in a city that has two absolutely exquisitely gorgeous, a white woman and a white man, and it says white is beautiful? White people are beautiful. Of course not. Self-criticism. It's another factor in obesity, the psychological factor, according to Weight Matters. Self-criticism. Does she think she's a little self-critical? Anti-whitism does that. Negative core beliefs. According to Weight Matters, psychological factors in obesity. Negative core beliefs. How many white people are afflicted with negative core beliefs? Every single one. And if you're in the white sympathetic sphere, if you say, oh, not me, you're lying to yourself, because you were taught these mean pathogens before you were smart enough to say no to them. And so with that, why don't we go ahead and tell folks back to this hotel room, and also what she did with hotel staff, non-white hotel staff. and what she gave away. Back to this hotel room. What was it, in Cuba, did you say?
Yes, sir. It was. I'm forgetting exactly what part, but yeah, it was Cuba. And she did. There was a resort that she was at, and bless her heart. And this is quite sad too. During the vacation, when she would stream, it was usually from her room. I'm not sure she spent more than a handful of minutes really on the beach. Went there supposedly to be on the beach, spent very little time on the beach because she's not physically healthy enough to traipse through the sand, to weather the heat. I mean, it was just a very uncomfortable and awkward situation for her. She was basically in this, hotel room that she had rented, just eating the food that they had there, just very, um, not really so much a vacation and very isolated. And so she would stream from the room, obviously, to make contact with her audience and so forth, and with her friends. I mean, these are her friends, basically, the people that tune into her chat. And that's a very sad element as well, because a lot of them are very hateful towards her. They're tired of being lied to, tired of being manipulated, allegedly. And just very that they're pushing back on her. They're like, just very hateful and critical. And still she keeps going back to that because that's what she feels, that number one, probably that she deserves, and number two, it's all she has. She doesn't have like real life connections. So there she is in this room, and she had apparently uh, drank quite a bit of alcohol, according to her, and she started to talk. Oh, and before I go there, I guess I will say that she had already stated that she had been, um, I guess, having like a kind of sexual encounter with a non-white um, hotel staffer. And during that encounter, she gave him her brand new, it was like $1,000 laptop that she bought purposely to stream from the resort while she was there, and then I guess also to help her out in her streams when she got home, because she had literally been streaming from her phone for since I had started watching her, so for at least since like December of 2021 or whatever. So she bought this expensive laptop, took it down there, and then gave it away to this non-white. And she said he was non-white. She said he was, I forget what nationality or what race she had said that he was, but she had made it a point to say that he had an accent and spoke, a different language than her own, and that their communication was limited or what have you. And she kind of made a point. She was like, I really like guys with accents, guys with, again, differentiating from her own people, her own, the guys that, would understand her, the guys that would speak English, those kinds of, she's not interested in that. So she started to have a sexual encounter with this guy, ended up giving him her laptop, and then justifying it by saying in this stream where she got really intoxicated, she said that she felt that she did not deserve to keep the money that she made, and that she needed to give it away to non-white individuals. And so much so, she said this so plainly that since she has gotten back from this vacation, she said in one of her streams, people have been contacting her and saying, hey, can I have some money? I am brown. And those are her exact words. She said that that's the kind of messages that she's getting on, I guess, her different social media platforms and so forth. So she made such a point to emphasize that she believes that she should just give away her possessions and her money to non-white individuals because she doesn't deserve it. That now non-white people are actually reaching out to her saying, okay, I'll take you up on that offer." So again, that's also another sign of just blatant self-hatred. She doesn't even think she deserves to own the things that she buys.
Yeah, so she goes on this vacation, and for recompense to non-white people, in her mind, because she is this evil white person that she hates. She immediately throws herself on her back and gives him access to sex with her as payment for being white. And she turns over a $1,000+ laptop as payment for being white. Those are the folks we have to remember that we're speaking to. So let me grab, we'll take a quick look at, let's see, I want to get them in, what is this one called? Is it up there? Okay, yeah. Okay. We'll see. I think we got a little bit of this start of this first clip. And we'll hear just a bit of that. We'll stop this one and then go on to the next clip, and then the next clip after that.
Yeah, I hate myself. I hate white people for exploiting the rest of the world. I hate that I'm privileged. I fucking hate it. I hate that I'm privileged. Because you know what? I'm just going to share all my fucking money with everybody. I don't care.
Just going to share all my money with everybody. Hate that I'm privileged. She's so privileged she gets to live with that self-hatred. You can, when you look at somebody, it's so immensely unsettling to see a white person in this state, and they're all in this state to one degree or another. Let's see if this is different.
The beef was like a piece of fucking shoe leather.
I apologize for the language.
I prefer the fuck. Why do you have to pretend just to make white people? I fucking hate white people more than anything in my fucking life.
She said, I hate white people more than anything in my effing life. So do you think that we're onto something here with the practice of going free?
I fucking hate white people. I hate you. You're more than anything in my fucking life. I fucking hate white people.
This is the voice inside every single white person. Do you appreciate this yet? This is what's going on this is every white child's head. This is malice aforethought, intentionally inflicted on every single white child. And that is the consequence.
And just to make white people, I fucking hate white people more than anything in my fucking life. I fucking hate white people. I hate you. You're a piece of shit, what you did to the world. You know that? You fucking entitled piece of shit.
You're a piece of shit for what you've done to the world. And there's one more. I don't know if a little bit of this is overlap.
Regret it one fucking bit. You know why? Because they deserve it. Because they work hard to treat us white people fucking nice. Because we're entitled fucking stupid fucking piece of shit white people. Here we go. Here it starts.
So this is her talking about, I guess, giving away her things.
Regret it one.
She doesn't regret it.
Bit. You know why? Because they deserve it. Because they work hard to treat us white people fucking nice. Because we're entitled fucking stupid fucking piece of shit white people.
Katie, any final thoughts? Well, before you do that, we'll take a look at the question. I think we got a couple of financial gifts, and we'll see if anybody else has any questions on any of the platform, because there might be something you can speak to as well. And then we'll get your final thoughts. We'll jump on over. It looks like Cash App is blank, that I didn't miss anybody there, so that's good. And hello to everybody on D Live. And looks like, okay, didn't miss anybody on Odyssey. All right, over here to Entropy, and we have Dude. Thank you so much, Dude, financially gifting $3. And he says, can you imagine the utter paralysis people experience when they believe their being is evil? And then every small shameful thing, small mess up, is then turned into an unpayable debt. Very well written. Thank you so much for that. That was Dude Financially gifting $3 with a brilliant comment. And we have the great Promethean Promulgation, whom I met in person, a real gentleman. $10 financial gift. Thank you, brother. Reminds me of this one non-white guy I met. Model face, ripped, and well-spoken. He stopped dating white women because they all, 10 or so, hated their parents and didn't really love him. Well, those are two very interesting. I'll read those again, Kate, to see if you have anything you'd like to say to those comments. Can you imagine the utter paralysis people experience when they believe their physical being, spiritual being, is evil? And then every small shameful thing, small mess up, is then turned into an unpayable debt. And then the Promethean Promulgation reminds me of this one non-white guy that I met. Model face, ripped, and well-spoken. He stopped dating white women because they all 10 or so of them, hated their parents and didn't really love him. Any thoughts, Kate?
Well, I would like to say to the first comment that that is very well written and very profound. And I can imagine it because we just watched it. And that is the paralysis, is that she, when she had a little alcohol and she kind of got very truthful, she started off on this rage about white people and what they had done to the world. And then it devolved into this just blatant self-hatred where she's almost in tears. You can see where she says, she's going to give away all of her things, and talking about, how much she hates her own privilege. So it went from, I hate all white people, to I hate my privilege. I hate myself. I need to give away everything. So I can imagine it because we just saw it. And that's a very good way to describe it. And it's a tragic situation. She does feel paralyzed because she's right back where she started. She's back from this vacation. She's seeing this guy again, this alleged drug addict or what have you. And she's seeing him. She's lying to her audience about it, but they came up with actual proof that she did see him. And so it's just, more of the same. And sadly, she's killing herself. She's killing herself on YouTube for views and financial gain, and also because she hates herself so much. And it's very, very tragic to watch. And no one is stepping in. All these people are responding and reacting and making money off of it, and no one's actually stepping in to try to save her from herself. And it's very, very sad, because she is a real person, aside from all the antics and the craziness and the dancing and the shaving her head. She shaved her head bald, which is why she's wearing the little cap in the one video. But aside from all the craziness, she is an actual person, and she's definitely killing herself. And then the second comment, that's a very interesting observation. And it's not surprising that these young white girls hated their parents, I think, because when you're raised in a non-traditional household, as a white child, I imagine that you are just succumbed to so much self-hatred that it would make sense that you would hate your parents as well.
Yeah, I mean, very well said. Both of those comments. Yeah, when it comes to this guy that Promethean Promulgation's talking about, he's discovered, my gosh, these white females that, first of all, he's having a great deal of luck with. They're throwing themselves on their backs to him with ease because they feel they need the punishment, and it's going to be easier with a guy who is better looking than one who is uglier. But as you can see, it really doesn't matter when it comes to inflicting harm on oneself because you feel like you and your people deserve it. And you can see in Chantal's eyes, she's tearing up. That is the genuine person was coming through at that moment. the destroyed white child inside of her. And we all have that white child in every white person. Every adult of any race has the child of themselves still inside of them, because that's where the most fundamental building takes place for who and what we are. You could see that coming through. Those tears of that fierce hatred, and all that she does now to harm Western kind, to harm white people, to make these arguments, to live a life that demonstrates by living it, suiciding herself, white flighting into the self-harm, that demonstrates that this is a normalized behavior. This is good Western civilization. This is how a white person should behave. You should self-harm. You should self-mutilate. You should suicide yourself. You should behave this way. She is victimizing, along with every other anti-white, Western kind, by, in her case specifically, demonstrating that it's rewarded to do so. You victimize yourself, you hate the white race, you make money, you get glamour, you get adulation, you get an audience, and the fucking anti-whites, they do everything they can to shut down every channel. You think that these other platforms are any better than this one? Everything they can to shadow ban every piece of effort that we invest, every modicum of effort, they will shut that down with shadow banning. But you better believe somebody like Chantal, they are going to use the algorithm to direct as many white children, single white women, single white men, everything they can, over to a channel like that, and all the others out there. Frivolous, airheaded entertainment, worthless garbage, any self-harm, anything to victimize the white race. That's what these people love. Well, what you were just looking at when I played those clips, I want you to remember those clips, because you were looking into the eyes, the moistening eyes of pure self-hatred inflicted on her, a child from the inside of this adult body that wanted nothing more than to be told that she and her people, that her people and therefore she have value, that they're legitimate, that she's important. That's what you saw in those eyes, those hateful eyes staring back at you, staring out into the abyss. She has nothing but a camera sitting in front of her. And she looked right into it. She looked right into the camera, a nothing. There aren't eyeballs there. There isn't somebody looking back at you. It's a circle, and a circle inside of it, and a circle inside. That's a camera that she's looking at. She's looking out into the abyss of her own soul. And she's screaming out the pain that has been inflicted on her by anti-whites. Don't go feeling too sorry for her, though. She's living a life of destroying Western civilization, Western kind, to the best of her ability. And I want, if she ever hears of this stream, and I seriously doubt it, if she ever does, I know she absolutely would reject the invitation, but I invite her to contact me for a private conversation. You ever wondered whether or not the practice of going free, you ever wondered whether or not this is the most important thing that we could be doing? You ever wondered? You see it in Chantal, because she is suffering uncountable issues, all of which are rooted in that hatred of her people and therefore herself. Do you think you are going to get over maybe a few extra pounds, or that inability to put on a few more pounds of muscle, or that inability to get over procrastinating? Do you think you're going to get over those things with just some self-help guru that's going to sell you a bunch of Aesop fables repackaged for a shit ton of money? Do you think you're going to be able to just go to church or just go to the pagan event and everything will get better? Well, you go ahead and keep thinking that, and nothing is going to get better. You have to go to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is anti-whiteism. and we disassemble it inside of you and reassemble you so that you can take charge of your life, so that you can be better than what the anti-whites have done to you. You need to go free. If she wants a private call, she can reach out to me. Kate, final thoughts?
I just want to say that I'm grateful that you had me on to talk about this. I think it's a really important subject, and it's interesting because I started out, as I said, watching her as like a guilty pleasure, junk food for my head kind of consumption. I really don't think that I viewed her, and I'm sorry to say this because it really speaks poorly of my judgment, but I don't think in the beginning that I viewed her as an actual person. I viewed her as just entertainment. You know, she was on there, she was making a fool of herself, she was just making all these horrible decisions, and it was just you know, it was something I could consume mindlessly, like people consume Doritos or what have you. But as I started to watch her, and then really most recently with the stream where she just really was brutally honest, I really came to you know, to this just stark realization that she is just so inflicted with anti-whiteism and self-hatred that I really saw her for the first time, I think, as a human, and you know, as this just really struggling person. And I wish the best for her, and I wish, you know, the best for everyone involved. You know, no hatred, no mean-spirited meaning behind talking about her at all. Just honestly concerned for her well-being. And I think also that it's a great example of what you speak of, which is the, you know, just horrible effects of anti-whiteism and the anti-white agenda. She's just projecting all of that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that. And thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge about this and the other channels that are following it. Really appreciate that, and appreciate you, Kate. And we'll go for now. We'll roll out for now, folks, but we'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow on PWR, and on Thursday with the great Jared George for TAP with the wonderful guest Nathaniel. And it'll be 7 p.m. We hope to see you all at that time. And thank you so much, Kate. Roll out.
Good night.
I want you to reach out in love. I want you to let those brothers and sisters around the base, let them know that even though the anti-whites wield so much power, that we are winning every contest with them, and that it's only a matter of time. Tell them that they can be more than they are. Tell them that they can stand up for Western kind, Western civilization, and everyone who lives in Western civilization of all immutable characteristics. Tell them that there's a way that they can stand up for it in love with the moral high ground. Be gentle with them at first. Coming out of a story that you thought was the real world is one of the hardest things that folks can do. If you go there with a true spirit and a true heart, with humility, you're going to win more souls than you'll ever turn away. And in the end, all of that will redound to the glory of our people and the reclamation of our destiny.